Are you confused about how to keep track of what you've memorized in a memory palace? If so, don't be. The memory palace itself removes the need to track volumes of information, but not exactly in the way people think. But if you would like a magnetic safety blanket, there's no shame in it, and there are 3 ways you can keep track of your memory palace content. Plus, you can also keep track of the magnetic imagery you use to weave the info into your memory. I'll cover each of these and help you get past the need for the safety blanket, and we're getting started right now. Hi there, this is Anthony Metivier from MagneticMemoryMethod.com, where I help mature learners of every age take mental adventures using memory techniques that automatically allow them to keep track of where information is in their minds, not necessarily in their memory palaces. Our community helps you make learning easy, effective, elegant, and fun, so hit that subscribe button now and enable notifications with the bell icon. That way you won't miss a thing, especially our live streams where you can hang out, ask questions, and meet the valuable members of the Magnetic Memory Method community. And while you're subscribing, and even if you're already subscribed, hit that thumbs up. Let's go. Now, before I get into these 3 simple, easy, and fun ways to keep track of the content in your memory palaces, let's talk about what the memory palace is actually for, because there seems to be a massive misconception. A lot of people seem to think that a memory palace is something you will refer to for the rest of your life to access the information you've memorized. Now, sometimes this can and will happen. For example, I remember exactly where and in which memory palace the German word Zerbrechlich was encoded. It's at the top of the escalator at the Potsdamer Platz Sony Center Movie Theater in Berlin. And the image is something like a cross between Zorro and a Zero whipping the playwright Bertolt Brecht with licorice as he's trying to protect a fragile vase. You see, Zer and Zero and Zorro all kind of fuse together to trigger that part of the word, Zer. And Brecht contains the sound bresh, and licorice has the sound lish. And Brecht is protecting a fragile vase because Zerbrechlich means fragile. And it was a good thing that this image stuck around in the memory palace for a while, because later I added a kite to the image. Why? Because Zerbrechlichkeit means fragileness or fragility. But the German word Zigmal for umpteen times, I only have a vague idea of where in one of my Berlin memory palaces that word might have been encoded. In both cases, it's irrelevant, because the memory palace, when used well, has a 2-step process that eliminates the need to keep track of where the information is within. The first step is encoding the magnetic imagery into a specific location in the memory palace. Elaborative encoding is the fancy scientific term for this if you'd like to do some reading on how and why it works, or you can check out a link I have below about how and why memory palaces work so well. I've also got a bunch of elaborative encoding exercises for you too, also in the links below this video. The second step is decoding, and this means going back to the memory palace and asking yourself, what was there? And what did it mean? So with a word like Zerbrechlich, the memory palace and the magnetic imagery was anything but fragile. Because I strategized the approach to always make the imagery help me recall both the sound and the meaning in the same fell swoop, this rich image instantly brought back the sound and the meaning of the word. But the kicker here is in revisiting and decoding the magnetic imagery a sufficient number of times so that the sound and meaning enter long-term memory. How many times? Well, there are truly no magic numbers. I plan to make a video about that issue soon, but for now, here's the most important point. If you'll just learn how to create memory palaces and magnetic imagery well by accessing all the magnetic modes, you can seriously reduce the time, especially when you add the big 5 of language learning. Now briefly, that is using your memory to read, write, speak, and listen so that the information gets deeper into memory. So in this way, the memory palace is really just like training wheels on a bicycle. There's no way on earth you want to rely on memory palaces forever. They are more like toolboxes in which you store the tools of magnetic imagery, and together with the oil of the big 5, they act like portals through which information more quickly passes into long-term memory. And when you strategize your memory palaces efficiently and use some other tricks I've discovered along the way to organize the information, you can scale the technique and accomplish goals like Eldon Clem and Amanda Markham. So Eldon memorized 1,000 words in just 6 weeks, and Amanda covered 200 in just 10 days. Amanda wrote an article all about how she used the magnetic memory method to accomplish this. Let me know in the comments if you'd like a link. And Eldon and I recorded a long discussion about what he did. Maybe I'll have a look at it one day and ask him if he's cool with publishing it on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast. In the meantime, please understand that the goal of the Memory Palace for Learning is to speed the transfer of information into long-term memory. Then, if you check out the definitive guide to reusing a Memory Palace, it's a fairly trivial matter to clean up and recycle your magnetic toolbox. And as you'll see in that video, myself and one of the best memory athletes don't necessarily recommend that, but it is something those of us who use Memory Palaces have all found tricks with one way or another. Now, in terms of the magnetic safety blankets I mentioned, here are 3, all of which I've used to various degrees. One is the Excel file Memory Palace. When I first used a large Memory Palace network, I created them using Excel files. Now, there are quite a few ins and outs to doing this effectively, and it's all covered in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass. You don't want to create an attachment to using Excel files, however. It's just meant to ease you into the practice and ease any anxiety you might have about losing all your hard work. Think of it like taking painkillers after a surgery. You only want them for 3 to 5 days max before reverting to ice packs and Tylenol. Otherwise, you risk becoming an addict. And if you think becoming an addict to Excel file Memory Palaces sounds silly, don't laugh too soon. I've read thousands of emails from thousands of people, and there truly is something I've come to think of as mnemonic example addiction. People really can lead themselves into learned helplessness. And so if you use Excel files to create your Memory Palaces and store your magnetic images, see it as training wheels on top of training wheels. The real skill you want is to encode directly into Memory Palaces without spending time on Excel files. Now keep in mind too that digital amnesia is a real threat, and there's some good reason to believe that we're combating our own progress by learning from screens. I've included a link in the description below to a piece I've written on digital amnesia. With over 450 shares, it looks like I really touched a nerve with this message. Please also share it around too. It could save the memory abilities of someone you love. 2. The Memory Journal. To avoid the problem of digital amnesia, I found that a paper memory journal is best. And when I started using them, I quickly realized I could rapidly draw my Memory Palaces and create top-down lists of the stations. This practice of drawing my Memory Palaces obliterated the need for Excel files. It also gets the structure of each Memory Palace strategized and remembered far faster. For more information on drawing Memory Palaces, check out my day in the life video, 3 Tactical Reasons Drawing Your Memory Palace Gets Better Results. The link is in the description below. In sum, if there is one thing you do want to stick in memory permanently, it is indeed the Memory Palace and its journey. Drawing them is a key means of making them happen. Using a memory journal is like being an artist with your sketchbook. It lets you practice the art of memory with all the muscles in your hands, arms, and eyes in ways that activate far more of your brain than typing into an Excel file. You can also rapidly browse through your pages and look at your progress. More importantly, a memory journal helps you in self-testing, which is the writing part of the Big 5. For example, every time I memorize a new line of Sanskrit, I go to the back of a memory journal and write it out from memory. I avoid looking at the Memory Palace drawing or the target information, which is usually in a book in a different room. From time to time, however, I may have written down something I've memorized, and this might be written in the front half of a memory journal. Using the back avoids cheating or otherwise feeding myself the information, which prevents the memory techniques from doing their work. Cheating, in turn, slows the process of getting the information into long-term memory. In all cases, memory journals are a delight, and I often have 3 to 5 of them going on at any given time. But they're not really for tracking the information in the Memory Palace. Tracking is not and never should be the goal. I recently recited 32 verses of Sanskrit, and although in this case I remember the Memory Palace very well and all the locations intimately, any writing in the memory journal was purely for testing purposes, and even then, I reserve this now for especially tricky words. Speaking of all these mnemonic examples, I have typed out each of these for teaching purposes in my forthcoming book, so stay tuned for details about that book soon, or look in the description below for updates if you're watching this in the year 3030 or beyond. 3. Share your mnemonic examples in a group. A third way to keep track of the information in your Memory Palaces is to create or join a memory group. There are several ways that you can do this. First, you can find friends who also share an interest in memory, get a private Facebook group together, and then post all your mnemonic examples there. Or you can join the Magnetic Memory Method forum and start a thread. If you're in the Magnetic Memory Method Master Group, there's a secret forum just for you, but so far our members haven't been doing this so much. They're probably a bit too advanced for that. Heck, some of them use video games and are busy creating Memory Palace apps. There's a lot of next level things going on in there, and I hope you'll join us soon. Finally, you can join one of my 30-day vocabulary challenges to help keep track of your Memory Palaces and magnetic imagery. For example, if you get the enhanced edition of my book, How to Learn and Memorize German Vocabulary, you automatically get the 30-day challenge. You can see all the past entries by other participants and pop in your own. However, All of that activity, as fun as it might be, must not be mistaken for accomplishment. If you want meaningful accomplishment, I suggest you learn how to create well-formed memory palaces and powerful magnetic imagery correctly. If you want some simple worksheets that help you learn these skills quickly, and you're a mature learner with enough discipline to complete a simple course, this free program will give you dozens of memory palaces to use and reuse to your heart's delight. Just head over to magneticmerrymethod.com/YT and join thousands of people who have created thousands of memory palaces simply by completing this free course. It will help you move past the magnetic safety blankets, and if you really get into this technique, there are ways to number every memory palace, number every station in every memory palace that will help you move even faster too. Just don't mistake these activities of numbering for accomplishment if they aren't actually creating the accomplishment of long-term memorization, as some people are often wont to do. In the meantime, thanks as always for the view. Hit that thumbs up, get subscribed to this channel if you aren't already, and I'll be heading off to practice recalling some Sanskrit from a memory palace precisely so it enters long-term memory and its magnetic toolbox can retire, fade away, or do whatever successful memory palaces do when they merge with the great memory palace in the sky. Take care, and until next time, hit that thumbs up, get subscribed to this channel for more free memory training, community with like-minded learners, and keep yourself magnetic.